Good morning. I am not Colin Bosson, in case you were wondering. Leo. We are honored to be here and honored to be invited to join you this morning for your Sunday service. As you all probably know, this it happens to be the second day of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. And with the Jewish New Year, we begin with the sounding of the shofar. Ribono shel olam, power of all, have compassion on the souls of Israel. Open hearts to do teshuvah, repentance before you. Open their souls for the sake of returning to you. Dwell on each sound of the shofar, contemplate its meaning. Tekiah, one whole note. Shivarim, Truah, three broken notes. 9 staccato notes. Tekiah, one whole note. My return to the right path has the power to make me whole again. Tekiah, once I was whole. Shivarim, Truah, in the wear and tear of living, I become broken and shattered. Tekiah, my teshuvah has the power to make me whole again. I invite you to read with me, blessed are hearts that respond to the majestic music of the shofar. Blessed is the gift of life, the power of renewal that brings us to this day. Tekiah, Shivarim Truah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shivarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah,
The sound of the shofar calls us to worship. Welcome this morning to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, where we widen love's circle, honoring the inherent worth and dignity of all. This morning we extend a heartfelt welcome to all of you who join us for worship, whether you're here in the sanctuary or joining us online. We particularly want to welcome all of you affiliated with Congregation Shema Kolenu who have joined us this morning for a special service to celebrate Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. For those that don't know, Shema Kolenu is a synagogue without walls who has been renting space from First Unitarian Universalist for the past several years for many of their Friday night services and for the occasional bar or bat mitzvah. Their presence is a reminder of the interfaith dialogue that has existed between Unitarian Universalist communities and Jewish communities since the inception of organized Unitarianism. In 16th century Poland and Transylvania, Unitarianism arose among people living at the borders between Jewish, Christian, and Islamic communities who sought to reconcile the disparate teachings between the three Abrahamic faiths. In conversations with Jewish leaders such as Rabbi Isaac ben Abraham of Troki in Lithuania, the early Unitarians came to proclaim God is one. This interreligious dialogue appears again and again throughout Unitarian Universalist history. It was present in the 19th century, in the middle of the 19th century in Manchester, England, where German Jews and British Unitarians worshipped side by side in the city's Cross Street Chapel. Here in the United States, it dates to the closing decades of the 19th century when the leaders of the Reform movement and the American Unitarian Association came to recognize each other as spiritual cousins. rabbis and Unitarian ministers began to exchange pulpits, and for many years, leaders of the Reform movement could actually be found at the annual meeting of the American Unitarian Association. Here in Houston, the relationship between First Unitarian Universalist and the Jewish community dates back to at least the 1940s, when the rabbis of Congregation Emmanuel and the ministers of our congregation regularly exchanged pulpits. Congregation Emmanuel even hosted First Unitarian Universalist for a time when this sanctuary here was being constructed, and our congregation could not meet in its own property. Today, First Unitarian Universalist has members who identify as both Jewish and Unitarian Universalist, and even shares some members, including some in my own family, with Congregation Shema Kolinu. So that makes me especially pleased this morning to welcome all of you to this very special service, one that I suspect might be even unique in the country, a joint service between a Jewish congregation and a Unitarian Universalist one for Rosh Hashanah. And with that, I would like to turn things over to Rabbi Scott.
The funny thing is that my congregation is mostly affiliated with the Reform movement of Judaism, considered to be the most liberal arm within the Jewish world. And for reasons that I could talk about another time, the Reform movement doesn't observe, generally, a second day of Rosh Hashanah, with the caveat that if we were ever invited by the First Unitarian Universalist Church to hold services with a Rosh Hashanah theme, voila! And so what... Thank you. So we named, I'm not sure that anybody else thought it was funny, but I thought it was funny. What we've been calling this is Second Day at First UU. So, we're going to sing together a song called Hashivenu. The words Hashivenu come from the Book of Lamentations. The book written, it is said, by the prophet Jeremiah, who sat in the midst of rubble and dust at the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem in the 6th century BCE. And these words say, God, please turn us towards you so that we will renew our days as of old. That, in and of itself, is a sermon that I'm not going to spend time on this morning. But suffice to say, we seek God's help to do the work of teshuvah, of turning, in order to then engage with what our tradition demands, which is introspection and self-adjustment and moving forward. Please join us, if you would like, in the words of Hashivenu.
Return
time is now. We've gathered round, so bring all your gifts and bring your burdens with you. No need to hide, arms open wide, we gather as one to make a makom kadosh, a holy place. We come to tell, we come to hear. We come to teach, to learn. We've come to grow, and so we say, the time is now. Sing to the one. God's presence is here. Shekhinah, you will dwell among us. We'll make this space a holy place, so separate, so whole. Rejoice, every soul who enters here.
Please join us in singing the Congregational Covenant.
Are there any children here? Is there anybody who used to be a child? Okay. Is anybody still a child? Does anybody have a partner who says you act like a child? All right. Well, there you go. Okay. Cool. Well, I work with all ages. I am the rabbi, and I'm also the director of education, and I'm also the CFO and COO and janitor. So I got it all covered. Excuse me. I can do children too. So one of the lessons that exists that really permeates rabbinic tradition, and one of the things we are warned against, and we're not unique in Judaism to warn against this, but it is a particularly profoundly important theme that we are warned against by our tradition, and that is gossip. So gossip in Hebrew is called lashon hara. Lashon means tongue. Ra means bad, so the bad tongue, right? The idea is that we can truly ruin a life just with words. One of the traditions the rabbis teach is that they say that gossip is akin to murder. Because gossip, when it's revealed to the person about whom it's being spoken, it causes blood to flush to the skin in an embarrassment. And just like murder is a release, a terrible release of blood, this is a mini murder. So there's this story, and you're gonna hear it twice. Once I'm going to tell it to you, and then once you're going to actually get to watch it in a music video, starring none other than Hannah Madeline Goodman. Excuse me. The story goes like this, and I'm going to do a mini version of the story because you're going to see a developed story on the screen. The story goes that, am I allowed to walk down? Okay, cool. I know there's hundreds of thousands of people who are watching right now, and I just want to make sure that they all can see me. I make that joke all the time from my synagogue, too. So there's a guy who's a gossiper. He likes to get energy and attention from other people by saying bad stuff about important people in the town. And he loved to say gossip about the rabbi. He tells everybody that the rabbi stole some food from a grocer. And he tells everybody about it. And everybody is just so offended and appalled that the rabbi would do such a thing. Small town, everybody knows each other. What this man didn't know or didn't care to ask about was that the rabbi had this arrangement where he would every day take his apple and his banana and a loaf of bread. He would take them from this little store because he had an account. Well, this man saw the rabbi take these things, and he thought, oh, the rabbi is stealing. And he tells everybody. And it gets out. But guess what? Yom Kippur, the day of atonement, the day of reckoning, is approaching, and he realizes, he learns the truth. The rabbi wasn't stealing anything at all. But at this point, everybody in the town is talking about it. So the man goes up to the rabbi, and he says, Rabbi, please, Yom Kippur is next week. Please forgive me. The rabbi says, I can forgive you, but I need you to do something first. I need you to meet me at the top of the hill in town tomorrow at 7 in the morning with a bag filled with feathers. The man says, okay, I knew there was something weird about this guy. But okay, fine. Yes, I'll do that. That's fine. And the next day, he meets the rabbi there at 7 a.m. He has the batters, and the rabbi says, okay. The wind was just about to kick up. It was kicking up. And the man, he said, I need you to empty out the feathers. Let them go. And the man, he does it. And the rabbi says, okay, now I need you to go and collect all of those feathers. And he says, Rabbi, I couldn't possibly. The rabbi says, don't worry, I'm going to forgive you. But you need to know that just impossible for you to collect every one of those feathers, is it really impossible for you to bring back all of the rumors and lies that were told about me. And so we're going to have to figure out how to manage this together. It's going to be a journey. It's going to take time. So gossip really ruins relationships. It undermines trust, and it makes society falter. And this is why the rabbis teach the importance of seeking to not engage in Lashon Hara. So now, I'd like to share with you a Bruno version. Instead of talk about Bruno, we don't talk Lashon Hara.
We don't talk Lashon Hara, no, no, no. We don't talk Lashon Hara. It was high holy days. Thomas getting ready for the big Shabbat service that night. Sick and serving were tight. Gordon walks in with a meshuggah grin. Gossiping about the town's rabbi. You do this from me, but Rabbi keeps the stuff he's like. Stolen. Has a grumpy temperament. And he can't control it. Takes less than 20%. Oy vey. It was all Lashon Hara. Blah, blah, blah. We don't talk Lashon Hara. Even though he thought the gossip was a silly, harmless game, Bunim noticed quickly no one saw the rabbi quite the same. That was when he realized that what he had done was cruel. Right, duh. So, shortly before sunset on the holy day of Yom Kippur, Bunim told the rabbi that he sought to get forgiveness for spreading the shmagaga like a childish little fool, 'cause it wasn't cool. The rabbi said, son, I can forgive you, but there's just one thing that you need to do. Meet me at the summit of Mount Shmakolenu, and you have shared Lashon Hara, yeah, yeah, yeah. You have shared Lashon Hara. They got to the mountaintop where the winds blow. Then the rabbi handed Bunim a pillow. He said, cut it open and let the feathers go. Bunim did just that, and they scattered below. The rabbi turned to Bunim and asked if he could get the feathers back. Bunim said, Rabbi, I wish I could, but they spread too far and too fast. That's when the rabbi's lesson came. You see how your words about me can never be retrieved, just like all those feathers. I think I get it, said Bunim. I will do better, I vow. I'll make it up somehow. So Bunim went to everyone he fetched about the rabbi unduly and told them he was sorry truly. And it spread like the rumors did. Rabbi said, my holy days, getting ready for the big Shabbat service that night. When we're tired, walked in with a meshuggah grin. Gossiping about the town's rabbi. This from his rabbi said the stuff he's like. Stolen. Has a grumpy temperament. All those feathers. Less than 20%. Oy vey. Don't talk Lashon Hara. Don't talk Lashon Hara. Never speak Lashon Hara. Never speak Lashon Hara.
At this time in our service, we are going to share with you a Jewish healing prayer that's it's called Mishaberach. And Mishaberach literally means, may the one who blessed our ancestors bless us as well, with healing, with peace, with what's called a refuah shlema, a complete and total healing and recovery. The way I do it in my congregation is I invite anyone who would like stand where they are seated. And if you'd like to mention names of people whom you are thinking of who are in need of healing, then I'll invite you to mention their names. So if you'd like to mention names aloud of people who you are thinking of who are in need of healing, please rise. And I'll invite you to mention their names. And once you've mentioned their names, I'll invite you to be seated once again. The words from Isha Berach are on the screen. Hannah will lead us in the music, and I invite you to channel their faces, the people who you are thinking of, individuals and groups, people in deep need of healing and wholeness. Thank you to this congregation. Excuse me. Thank you to Reverend Bosson. Oh, not yet. I thought that's what you said. Oh, okay. That's what I thought. I thought it was early. Come back for the second service. It'll be smoother.
We now pause together to lift up that which sits heavy and light on our hearts. This morning we offer up prayers for gratitude for the rain. And in this great cloud of witness and memory, having heard the names earlier, we now take a time to pause in awe and wonder of the beauty, mystery, and diversity that is life. And so in the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and the spirit of compassion, we enter into a time of silent meditation, reflection, or prayer.
Each week, our morning offering is shared with an organization that shares our Unitarian Universalist values and through which we may live out our principles in the world. This week, that organization is the Maui Food Bank. In early August 2023, a series of wildfires broke out in the U.S. state of Hawaii, predominantly on the island of Maui, almost destroying the historic town of Lahaina. The wind-driven fires prompted evacuations, caused widespread damage, killing at least 115 people and leaving at least 110 others missing in Lahaina. The Maui Food Bank is Maui County's primary safety net for hunger relief. The food bank provides safe and nutritious food to anyone in Maui County who is at risk of going hungry. Of those served, 40% are children and youth. Working with more than 100 distribution partners and programs, the food bank distributes safe and nutritious food to individuals, families, kids, the working poor, seniors on fixed incomes, the homeless, and anyone who is at risk of going hungry. Those in our sanctuary will find the instructions for text giving in the order of service next to the name of the shared offering recipient, and those watching the live stream will see the instructions on your screen. Our regular Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action. We ask that you give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received.
Thank you so much for watching our service today. We're glad you're part of our online community, where we welcome people who are diverse in faith.
From you.
I invite you to join with me to read the words to dedicate our offering found in your order of service. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these are offerings.
Take two. As I was saying, what a privilege it is for us, for me to be here, for us to be here, to be invited by Colin Bosson. So I met Colin Bosson. I met Reverend Bosson because a congregant of CSK, who's also a congregant of First UU, who's sitting in the second row right here, Craig Ottinger, called me up and he said, or maybe he emailed me or texted me, he said, hey, I want to introduce you to Reverend Bosson. He's new to our Unitarian Universalist church where I'm a member. I've been a member for a long time. And I said, sure, that'd be great. And I said, let's set it up. He said, yeah, I want to talk to you. I want to get you to connect with him because the Reverend wants his son to have a bar mitzvah. And I was like, okay. That's not a request you get every day. Well, when I met Reverend Bosson, I said, so you're Jewish? And he said, yes, I was born Jewish. And I said, so were you raised Jewish? He said, I was raised more communist. So I thought, all right, excellent. We're going to get along well. Now, I'm not at all convinced that Asa knew what he meant when he said he wanted to become a bar mitzvah, because there was a lot more Hebrew than I think Asa had expected to learn. But we got going on that journey. It was fantastic. He learned quickly. And then, of course, COVID happened. So Asa was one of our Zoom mitzvahs. We had 7 during the year 2021. And we did it right from this spot in here. There were all of 5 or 6 of us, whatever. And it was terrific. But I love and appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak. What I'm going to do is kind of curate for you what I'm calling a mini Rosh Hashanah experience. But what I thought I would do first is share with you a story that I think encapsulates a very Jewish view of the world and of life. From the time that Adam and Eve are exiled from the Garden of Eden, they live together east of Eden, tilling the earth and raising children and struggling to stay alive. After those many years of struggle, when their children are grown, Adam and Eve decide to take a journey before it's too late and see the world that God had created. They journey from one corner of the world to the other, and they explore all of the world's wonders. They stand upon the great mountains, they trek across the vast deserts, they walk amid the mighty forests and traverse the magnificent seas. They watch the sunrise over the endless wilderness and the sun set into the boundless ocean. All that God created, they behold. In the course of their journeys, wandering from place to place, they come upon a place that seems rather familiar. They come upon the Garden of Eden, from which they had been exiled on the very first day of their lives. The garden is still guarded by an angel with a flaming sword. This angel frightens Adam and Eve, and they flee. But suddenly, they hear a voice, a gentle, imploring voice. God speaks to them, "My children, you have lived in exile these many, many years. Your punishment is complete. Come now and return to my garden. Come home to the garden." Suddenly the angels disappear, the way into the garden opens, and God invites them in. But Adam, having spent so many years in the world, he hesitates and he says to God, it has been so many years. Remind me, what's it like in the garden? The garden is paradise, God gleefully responds. In the garden, there's no work. You need never struggle or toil again. In the garden, there is no pain, no suffering. In the garden, there is no death. There is no time. No yesterday, no tomorrow. Only an endless today. Come, my children, return to the garden. Adam considers God's words. He thinks about a life with no work, no struggle, no pain, no passage of time. And Eve begins to think as well. A world with no death. An endless life of ease with no tomorrow and no yesterday. And they turn towards each other. And they look into each other's eyes. The people with whom they have struggled to make a life. To take bread from the earth, to raise children, to build a home. And they see the lines in each other's faces, all the tragedies they have overcome, and the joys they have cherished. They see in each other's eyes all the laughter and all the tears they've shared. And they look towards God, and they look back towards each other. And then they say, "No, thank you, God. It's not for us. Not now. We don't need that now. Come on, Eve says. Let's go home. And Adam and Eve turn their backs on God's paradise, and they walk home. The Torah is filled with stories that I believe, and our tradition seems to support the notion that the text was written purposefully with a great lack of clarity, with a lot of questions that are demanded from the text. The Torah text was never meant to be an official statement of the truth with a capital T. If we study Torah and we don't walk away from the study with more questions than answers, we haven't done Torah study right. Because at the end of the day, Torah study is really about self-discovery. And Judaism is a tradition that affirms and embraces the notion that the world and the life that we have right here is the most real one there is. That there isn't a better place. Now, we don't turn down the possibility that maybe there's some world beyond this one. Jewish tradition speaks plenty of olam haba, the world to come. But it's maybe something that comes. It's not something that's meant to be the yield on our investment. That the most important part of what Judaism is about our lives is that this is what we got. This is what we have. And at least as far as Judaism is concerned, no one has yet gone there and come back to affirm that it's there. Therefore, I guess in Judaism, we play the odds. Or at least we play with what we have here. So there are two prayers that are central, two of the prayers that are central to the High Holy Days. One is called Avinu Malkeinu, and one is called Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu is a prayer by which we primarily ask God to write us into the book of life for the year to come. Is that something that we know happens? Well, God willing, we're here next year. But we don't offer people slips of paper when they leave the synagogue to let them know whether they're in or out. We don't know. But change the prayerful word that we say, God, please, katvenu, write us into the book of life. And you just change the vowels a little bit to katavnu, which is the first person plural past tense. You turn it into a question. Not, God, please write us into the book of life, but rather, have we written ourselves into the book of life and goodness? So I invite Hannah to share with us Avinu Malkeinu. And I invite you to ask yourselves the question, how have I written myself into the book of life this past year, and will seek to do so in the year to come?
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha.
called, our congregation is called Shema Kolenu, which means hear our voice. We are a congregation that 10 years ago started with the desire, the notion, the prayer that we would be able to set up Judaism in a different format in our society, to be less burdened by the heavy financial constraints of owning a building and also of the membership model that had been the most common one, that felt to a certain extent like it was undermining people's ability to have their voice heard. And so Shema Kolenu, which you heard Hannah say several times in the Avinu Malkeinu prayer, is a plea. It's, God, please hear our voice. Congregation Shema Kolenu is a prayer, is a congregation that seeks to raise up our voices, individually and collectively. So I invite now Hannah once again to now share with us Shema Kolenu, the central prayer of Yom Kippur, by which we seek God's grace in our lives and in the mystery of our existence.
Shema Aleinu,
A young rabbi is making her rounds at the senior home. Tell me, she looks down at her note card, Mrs. Schwartz, tell me about your life. Well, you wouldn't believe it, Rabbi. I have had a very good life. I lost Murray a few years back, but I have wonderful grandchildren and children, and I'm feeling pretty good for an 88-year-old. That is so wonderful, Mrs. Schwartz. You should live 32 more years to the age of 120. Ad me'ah ve'esrim, like Moses, our teacher. She knocks on the next door, glances down at the note card. Mr. Goldberg, I am the new rabbi here, and I want to meet you. Tell me about your life. I have had a good life. At one time, I wrote for the newspaper. I've traveled and met many important people. And Rabbi, I am 94 years old. That is fabulous, said the rabbi. You should live 26 more years. Bis 120 in Yiddish. To 120 and be strong like Moses, our teacher. The next door, knock, knock. Mrs. Levy, how nice to meet you. Tell me about your life. Oh, Rabbi, I've seen so much change, so many things. Where do I begin? And you wouldn't believe it. Tomorrow is my birthday. I will be 120 years old. The rabbi interrupts and says, Mrs. Levy, have a nice day. In Jewish tradition, we want life. We want as much life as we can get, but as we say, we don't push it. So 120 seems to be a good marker. Moses lived to 120 according to the Torah, and this is our hope, this is our wish. But really, it's this humble recognition that we have this life. This is it. And we are charged to do with it what we will seek to do to make the world better than when we arrived. I invite up Leo Hernandez to sound the shofar for us once again and invite this shofar in to your hearts as I look for the slide. That's okay. Here we go. Tekiah. Shevarim Trua. Tekiah. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah Gedolah.
Please join me with the words printed in your order of service for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Would you all please rise? Our God and God of all generations before us, may it be your will in the coming year to grant us a year of abundance and atonement, a year of blessings bestowed and received, a year of community and compassion, a year of delight and exaltation, a year of enlightenment, a year of friendship and forgiveness, a year of going up in gladness, a year of health and healing and humor, a year of inner strength and well-being, a year of joy and celebration, a year of knowledge and learning for its own sake, a year of love, a year of mitzvot, commandments, and of moments of sweetness, a year of nature protected and enjoyed, a year of optimism and hope, a year of peace, a year of quiet and tranquility, a year of rain in its season, a year of song and spiritual growth, a year of study and fixing the world, a year of understanding and unity, a year of vows fulfilled, a year of wisdom, a year of coexistence, a year of joy. And we all say, Amen.
Thank you so much for watching our service today. We're glad you're part of our online community, where we welcome people who are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, as well as gender identity and sexual orientation. There are many different ways you can get involved in our community. One you can do right now is by clicking like below or subscribing to our channel. If you're interested in joining our congregation, please email us at membership@firstuuhouston.org. Thanks so much for joining us.